Hello, my name is Phebe, and this is the very first episode of my podcast, How Did You Get There? And you might be wondering, how did you get here to this particular point recording a podcast? Well, my sister actually bought me a microphone as a gift because I had always said that I wanted to have my own podcast, and I guess she felt as though without the microphone I wouldn't get started. And it was really difficult to get started because I am a Virgo, I am a perfectionist, and I always want to get things right. So I don't know. I think that was what was holding me back. Just getting started is the hardest part sometimes. So let me introduce myself to you. My name is Phoebe. Or in fact, that's not my government name, as you'd say in Jamaica, but that's what I'm called by everybody who's really close to me, my family and my friends. I think growing up, I always wanted to be an actress or a journalist. And my mother really quickly let me know that, yeah, acting is perhaps not the smartest thing for you because not a lot of people are successful at acting. And I actually think that I would have been a really good actress because I'm very dramatic and I like bringing stories to life. But I digress. I wanted to be an actress, didn't go down that path. Obviously, didn't become a journalist, or it wouldn't be obvious to you because you don't really know me, but I didn't become a journalist either. But the common thing between both is that both actors and journalists, they specialize in telling stories. It has a lot of parallels to what I do because I work in internal communications. So I tell a lot of stories to the people in our organization practically every day. My role also expands externally, so I do a lot of the content that I do is used externally on our LinkedIn page and on our YouTube page as well. So I am a storyteller, but working in the corporate world, I feel as though I've never really had ownership of the content. It belongs to the organization that you created for. So here we are. How did you get there? The podcast. And what I hope to do with this podcast is to tell people's stories. How did they get to the position that they are currently in life? What were some of the obstacles they faced? Who are some people that were on the journey with them? What can we learn from their story? Would they have done anything differently or would they have done it the same way? So that's where we're going. But you know what? In order for us to kickstart this journey together, I thought it might be important for me to tell my own story. How did I get here? So I live in the UK, and I am not from the UK. I was born in Jamaica. I was born in St. Mary, Jamaica. Big up all the St. Mary people there. But I grew up in Jamaica. And as I said, growing up, I always thought I want to be a journalist or an actress. Didn't go the acting route. But one of my first jobs in Jamaica was at this organization called RJR Communications Group. And we had a connection with somebody who was there, and I got the opportunity to work there. And when I first met the person in question, who I hope to have on the podcast, they said to me, "What do you want to do?" Because the communications group had radio stations, a television station, and they also had a department called Multimedia Jamaica Limited. I always thought, however, that I perhaps didn't have a face for television. I'm also really shy. You can't tell, but I'm a little bit shy. But I wasn't confident that aesthetically it would work for me on television. And radio, I don't know. I think I would have loved to do radio, but I always had this issue with asking exactly for what I wanted. So I ended up in Multimedia Jamaica Limited, which was the name of the company. And my first role was was it a PR and marketing role? Yes, it was a PR and marketing role. I had done literatures and English at university, so it kind of worked in terms of the skills that I had and the things that I could do. And I spent some time there, learned a lot, thought I did a great job. And after that, I went to another organization, the Jamaica Manufacturers Association. We were a very young team, more or less, but there were people of different ages, different kind of different levels and stages of their lives. But we were a very close-knit team. It was more like a family. And I know that some people think calling people that you work with a family can be an indication of toxic culture, but that wasn't the case. We were really close. We had a great relationship. We worked together. No role was too much or too little for anybody to do. There wasn't a lot of ego. And the leader of that team, she really did a good job of allowing us to make mistakes and really bounce back from it. And I'm sure I made a lot of mistakes, but I really grew in that role. And we did a lot of fun events and activities. I got to travel all across Jamaica, and that was a great time for me. And then I spent about 2 years there. And then my next role was in an organization, which is the umbrella organization for credit unions in Jamaica. And we had a product that was geared at young savers. So I used to travel again all across Jamaica, and in partnership with the credit unions, we had a lot of events and did a lot to mobilize young savers in Jamaica. So that was a lot of fun. And then I moved to the UK. And before that, felt as though my career was doing this. Upwards, upwards, upwards. I was really comfortable where I was. I understood how to navigate Jamaican society. I had great contacts. And then I came here to the UK, and it felt as though everything that I knew about myself or thought that I knew about myself was not true. And I think I lost a lot of confidence. I don't know. I really struggled initially in terms of finding my place and finding my footing. And I remember my very first job in the UK was at a restaurant. And I was really excited because I'd been applying for a lot of marketing roles and I was getting a lot of no's. And this role really, I was excited about it because I would be earning, And I remember calling a friend in Jamaica and saying, I've got a job. And they said, where did you get this job? And I said, yeah, it's in this restaurant. And their response kind of brought me back to earth because they were like, so you really left Jamaica for go serve people on table? And I felt like an absolute zero. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with working as a waitress. I did it. But I think at that point, coming from being in a corporate environment in Jamaica to, working in a restaurant, taking orders, bringing the food from the kitchen, hoping that you got a good tip. It was, and hearing that response from my friend, and really they were saying, is that really what you've descended to? Is that really what you're doing? It was very sobering at the time. And I remember I felt a sense of shame. And I really, at that point, I was insufferable. I had an inflated sense of self, and I thought that I was somehow special. And I think I lost sight of that, because I think it's okay to think that there's something special about you and to really have that confidence and to play to your strengths. But at that particular moment, I couldn't remember why I felt that way. In any case, I at some point ended up going back to school, and I did a course in radio production, and that was really fun. I enjoyed being my best creative self. I even worked then on a community radio station with my friend Corey. We had a show that we did every week, and we really had a lot of fun with that. We really enjoyed it. I feel like I'm saying a lot of fun quite a bit. So yes, we really enjoyed it. And that was really good. It wasn't a paid role. It was a community radio station, and it was really a springboard for me to put everything that I'd learned formally in practice. And after that, I actually got a job at a radio station in the UK. I wasn't working in radio, I was working in communications. So it was a communications role there. And I felt as though at that point, I was on cloud nine because somebody took a chance with me. Somebody believed in me. Somebody saw that I had the potential to do what I thought my calling was, which was to just be creative, to tell stories using, the written word, to engage with an audience. And I really enjoyed working in communications at this radio station. And, I don't know, I really enjoyed it. It wasn't a paid role. It was a community radio station. And it was a community radio station. So it was a community radio station. And I really enjoyed working in communications at this radio station. And, I felt really supported, because even after I left, the lady and gentleman who had given me the role, they were so supportive. They wrote great recommendations, and I also met someone else who was there in leadership. They were so accessible. When I tell you, on a Friday, they would have, it was like a little huddle, but everybody in the organization was there. We'd have pizza, we'd have drinks, and it was really relaxed, and I loved the culture there. So shout out to the leadership there and the managers there, because they really helped create an environment where I felt as though I belonged for the short time that I was there. And as you can guess, unfortunately, it was a temporary role. So I wasn't there for as long as I would have hoped. And searching for roles again, I needed to work. I needed to earn, because I had responsibilities. And the next role that I got was as a customer service assistant on a train. No, I tell you, when you don't understand, you just don't understand. Because when it was advertised, I thought, customer service assistant, I'm going to speak to customers and help them. And I really thought that I would be working in a train station, probably selling tickets, helping people, or helping people who didn't know how to navigate the different kind of their journeys. So I thought I'd be helping people, and I love helping and giving and doing all that great stuff. That was not the case. When I went to training, that role was essentially serving customers on the train. So you could either work in first class, so you got to meet a lot of people as well, or you could work in the shop. So what would normally happen is, if a crew didn't really know you, they just chuck you in the shop, and you're working on your own, but you get to speak to customers. And then if you're in first class, you get to speak to customers, you do the service throughout the journey. People on board know that essentially you say you're serving tea and coffee. So that's how I used to refer to it, right? But you're serving tea and coffee on a train that is traveling at about 200 miles per hour. So that is what I did. I worked on the train. I met some great people, and two people really stand out. I remember being on the train one day and speaking to a gentleman, and he said to me, he just thought, having that conversation with me, that I wanted to do more. And I said, well, actually, this is what I used to do, and this is where I am at now. And he said to me, well, you say you're great at internal comms and marketing. Surely this company that you're working at, they do have a marketing or comms team. And I said, yeah, I'm sure they do. And he said, well, you should send them an email and update your resume and send it through to them. And I thought, you know what? Okay, let me do that. We kept in touch, because he said to me, you need to, get a LinkedIn page. So I did. And when I got that LinkedIn page, I think I had written some blurb, and then I sent it to him, and he said, you say that you're a communicator, you can do better. So I had to improve the page. So that happened. And off the back of that, actually, I ended up getting a role in the comms team at this train, with this train operating company, or TOC they call it. But on that train also, I met another gentleman who was traveling on the route from London to Manchester. At that point, the BBC had just moved to, I think it's called Salford Quays in Manchester. And I remember speaking to this gentleman, and usually the conversation starter is, your accent, where are you from? People always think I'm from Barbados or America. I don't know why. I think I sound Jamaican, but that's what I always get pinned as. He actually knew that I was Jamaican, so we hit it off, and it was a great conversation. And I remember having the conversation, and he said, what do you want to do? What are your aspirations? And I said to him, once upon a time growing up, I always said that I wanted to be a journalist. Oops, my laptop kind of just did what it does. So I said, growing up, I always wanted to be a journalist. And I think, I've always wanted to work at the BBC. And he said, really? And I said, yeah, I've always wanted to work at the BBC. No word of a joke. This gentleman worked at the BBC. And he said, at the end of your service, before everybody comes off the train, come back and see me. And he gave me his card, and there he was. And at this point, I'm like, oh my gosh, look at my luck. I'm going to move to Manchester. I'm going to work at the BBC. It didn't work out, but I think that really motivated me to keep going. And so I just met a lot of great people. And I think the moral of that is be open to taking advice. Don't forget the things that you really wanted to do when you set off on a journey, because it's easy to get complacent and to stay where you're at because it's comfortable and it's now your comfort zone. But don't be afraid to take risks and to play in that zone that's not so comfortable, to juggle with your left hand, as someone once said to me. So I worked with this company for a while. And then it got to a point where I thought, because it was a temporary role, actually, I feel as though everything's been temporary, was temporary at that point. And then at the end of that, I think I was going to go back on board. And at that point, I was not going to go back on board. I thought, you know what? Having had this taste of doing comms again and doing internal communications, which I did not know about, didn't know that was a discipline. I thought, this is what I want to do. I love this. I love amplifying the voice of people in an organization. I love connecting what's happening in the back office with, what's happening on the front line. And I want to do more of this. I want to help to create an experience in the workplace that people can definitely enjoy and feel as though they belong. So I did not go back on board. I applied for another role. And it felt almost as though I was going around in circles and I wasn't getting to where I needed to get to. But the reality was, every single role that I did, there was something that I needed to learn. And at the time, I didn't know that because I was young and I thought I knew everything. And I was very outspoken. If I had something to say, I would tell you, kind of yes with the neck and all of that. Like, but yes, I would tell you. And so, I had to go through a lot of growth. But anyways, in my next role, a lot of what I did was organizing, planning, troubleshooting, a lot of customer service. And again, I remember somebody saying something to me that at the time, they said, is this the right thing for you? You enjoy speaking to customers. Perhaps you need to work in a call center. I thought, thank you. Thank you for your perspective. Thank you for your point of view. But I want more. I could work in a call center. I'd probably be great at it. But that is not what I want to do. What I want to do at this point is internal communications. So I went back to school. I invested in myself and I did a course in internal communications. And I remember the person who managed the course saying that everybody who did that course, their path always changed after. And I thought, man, it's about time for my path to change. And I remember going to work a particular day and I felt really down. I felt really depressed. I can still, speaking about it, I feel the feeling that I had at that point. I felt really out of it. I felt as though I was stuck. I felt as though I wanted more, but I didn't know what that looked like. I felt as though I was a failure because I knew that the place that I was at that point wasn't where I should be, but I didn't know how to get to the next place. And I remember going in on the day, and I tend to be a little bit emotional, right? If I'm watching a film and it's sad, I will cry. But similarly, if something annoys me, then I will get angry. I feel everything and I feel it deeply. So anyways, went to work the day. I was feeling down. When I'm out of it, everybody knows because I'm just, and so I went to work the day. Everybody could tell I was not happy. And ironically, that day, I was employee of the quarter or something. I don't know. I just know I was recognized for the hard work that I was doing, and that validated me. I felt as though, okay, finally I'm being seen and my contribution is being seen, and perhaps I shouldn't be working in a call center, huh? Perhaps I belong here. And around that time, I also got offered an internal communications role. And I remember having a conversation about it with my boyfriend at the time, who is now my husband. And he said, you know what, that's not the role for you. And it really wasn't the role for me. Around that time, I also got offered another role. And I think this is where things changed, because the role was a temporary role. Again, another temporary role. And I thought, oh, I've just said no to a permanent internal comms role. And here is this temporary role, but the organization was a well-known and respected organization. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to take it. This will be a great opportunity for me. The job that I had was to do a corporate television show. So I would be producing a television show every week in this organization. And I thought, ooh, look at me being a producer slash journalist. I made it. Well, not really, but I was really excited. And I didn't know if I would get the job. But when I went to that interview, it just felt right. And there's a Jamaican saying, anything that is for you cannot be unfor you, which means that anything that is meant for you will definitely be for you. And so I went in, and it was in early stages, and I helped to build that with a team, because I didn't do it on my own, but I helped to build it. I had creative license, so any idea that I had, we did it. And I was working with people at different levels within the organization, but senior leaders, because it was a senior leader visibility channel, they called it. So one week I'd have the CEO or the CFO or the CEO for one part of the business, or the director of another part of the business, or somebody on the board. It was good. I think I really demonstrated to myself that there's nothing that I cannot do, and that if I commit myself to something and I put myself in it and I pour all of me into something, that it will be successful. And it really was. And now here I am, still in internal communications, really expanding my role, because I don't think what I do is simply internal communications. I am focused on engagement. So how connected do people feel to the organization? And I do a lot of work in the cultural space. How does it feel to work in this organization that you're in? And I am really proud of where I am today from a career perspective, because I've moved from thinking that I would not get a chance to demonstrate my true potential. And I'm big on purpose. And I kept asking myself, well, why am I here? I want to do more. I want to be more. And I think I'm at a point now where I am starting to recognize that I need to redefine what success means to me, because it can't only be about climbing the corporate ladder, although I really want to climb the ladder, okay? Okay, I really want to climb the ladder, because I see myself as being in a position of leadership, but I also want to stay true to me and do things that really feed my creative energy, and have something that I can say, you know what? I did this. I got up, I started it from the beginning, and I did it. So that's what this podcast is. So my hope is that this podcast will grow. How did you get there is the name. Spread the word. Send the link to your friends, your family, people who are not even your friends, but you think they'd benefit from hearing some of these stories. I hope to produce content really frequently, and I'm balancing this with my day job, because I'm not doing this as a career. I'm doing this because telling stories is what I love to do. I'm hoping that the episodes are no more than 30 minutes. I want to get this to a point where we grow together as a community. So please subscribe. I feel so odd saying this. Like the video, subscribe, and share it. And if you have any ideas about topics that you want me to cover, is it that you want me to focus on travel? What it feels like to go to a new place. Because how did you get there? Travel. That could be a thing as well. If you want me to diversify content and do other things, if you want me to interview specific people, please support How Did You Get There, the pop. Let's go again. Please support How Did You Get There, the podcast. #HDYGT. Thank you. Bye.